and welcome back to Men's Day Out, India's only portal that covers gender stories but from the other side. Over the weekend this Saturday, Delhi witnessed one of the most awaited documentaries in the men's rights space, India's Sons, a tale which narrates stories and journeys of men who have been falsely accused of rape. Joining us today is the core team behind the much critically acclaimed India's Sons. Please welcome both the directors, Deepika Narayan Bhardwaj and Neeraj Kumar, and also joining us is Shoni Kapoor, producer of the documentary. Thank you very much, all of you, for making it today together. I am certain you all are very busy after the screening. Deepika, let me start with you. What made you select this particular topic after you had a huge success with Martyrs of Marriage, which successfully screened on the OTT platform Netflix for 2 years? Why India's Sons?
India's Sons basically is because when I started working on Martyrs of Marriage, that was 2012, almost 27 years after 498A had been brought in by our lawmakers to curb the issue of dowry and domestic violence, I would say. And that also was a culmination of a lot of protests by feminists and women's rights activists to get a law like that, because we already had Dowry Prohibition Act, but apparently that was not working. So 2012, when I started making Martyrs of Marriage is when Nirbhaya case happened. And in 2012 December. And so while I was not there, I was not even born when 498A was brought in after a lot of protests, and then there's a 3 decade of abuse of that law. I was witnessing sort of a repeat of what could have happened in 1983, because there were so many protests. Then the law got amended, the rape laws got completely overhauled, and I started seeing the misuse while I was working on the misuse of IPC 498A. So the only reason behind making India's Sons is to shorten that length of, arguments and discussions around a very, very important subject. It has taken years and years for our Supreme Court to pass any guidelines or our lawmakers to do anything about 498 misuse. 376 or rape is a very, very heinous crime. I do not want that the misuse of it goes unchecked, and there are already thousands of people who are suffering because of it. I do not want that it takes that many years for 376 misuse to become known and in the eyes of people. And I thought India's Sons was a very, very need of the hour subject to work on. So I had other subjects in my mind. Neeraj knows about those subjects, but we decided to work on India's Sons because while we were editing also, I think we were quite sure that this is the next subject that we are going to pick up, because we were seeing hell happen in front of us.
Right. And in fact, I will pose the same question to Shoni as well, because Shoni, you have got associated with this commercially. Now, this is a very, very sensitive topic, and I don't know how many people would even want to touch this topic at the end of the day, as a sellable project. Why did you choose to associate yourself with a project like this?
Yeah, Naz, there is an old pic which Deepika shared some time back, and it was 2012 pic. I have been associated with the men's rights movement for quite some time. And I have personally seen that men's rights movement in India and probably across the globe, it is a cash-starved movement. And the reason is probably twofold. One of the reasons is that most of the men who get attracted to this movement, they themselves are not very cash rich, or by the time they get out of the mess of legal cases, they do not remain cash rich. And the second, or probably the bigger reason, which I think is that most people who get attracted to men's rights movement think it is some kind of a communist movement, some kind of a socialist movement, some kind of movement which is giving free doles. People think that everything should be free, legal advice should be free, advocates should fight cases for the free, court fee should be zero, no alimony, no maintenance should be paid, And so basically they are not ready to invest or pay anything. Even while we used to do dharna or anything, it was very difficult to get any funds for that. Crowdfunding efforts is very big task. I don't say crowdfunding does not work. Crowdfunding definitely works. there is an example. There is a movie called Manthan, which is effort of 5 lakh farmers. They contributed 2 rupees each. It was made in 1976, so of course 10 lakh rupees was a big amount at that time. So every farmer contributed only 2 rupees. Deepika's first movie was also a crowdfunding effort, Martyrs of Marriage, and we are friends, known to each other for so many years. I was aware what kind of difficulty she was facing, and people went to such an extent they insinuated that Deepika has, embezzled money out of it. I don't think that kind of insinuations are valid anyways, because I know Deepika for sure. But that kind of insinuations was also there. I had not planned to fund this movie at all. It was at the spur of a moment, happened at the spur of a moment. Deepika knows about it. She said, I want to create a movie, make a movie on this subject, and I am looking for funding. Can you get me somebody to fund it? I said, what is the amount? And she said, this is the amount. I said, main kar deta hu. Not a big deal, but we'll do it slowly, And afterthought is, and this is purely an afterthought, because I think that movie, documentary, book, they have larger shelf lives, So in any moment, if there are books, studies done, they have a larger shelf life than dharnas or news reports. News reports get stale. How many times you have read an old issue of India Today? Never. Even an old issue of Reader Digest? Never. But how many times you have watched Sholay? A lot, many times, right? So I think this was one of the motives, and men's right movement has utterly failed to invest in projects which has longer shelf life. And if somebody is making something and somebody can contribute, I think it is the duty of a person who can contribute to support the cause and invest in it. And that was the sole reason.
Right. And of course, I will also add to it. If anybody thinks people are making money out of men's rights movement, they really need to do it on their own to have a reality check.
I also want to add one more thing, that Martyrs of Marriage was part crowdly funded. I had raised around 6.5 lakhs in funds. But apart from that, it was my life investment. I did not have any money left after that. I had to go and join a job to sustain myself. I worked for 6 months. I joined a startup because I had nothing with me. So, yeah.
So Deepika, that is what I was saying. And that is the whole point.
People do not invest.
People do not invest.
Yeah, I completely get it, Shoni.
And if I feel so, and if opportunity come where I could invest, I didn't want to let it pass, Bhagat Singh किसी दूसरे के घर में पैदा नहीं होगा ना. I am part of
and it's not, I think people just see funding and expenditures as a figure. What they fail to look at is that Neeraj and I have invested 3 years of my life into this. Got delayed because of pandemic. Initially, the idea was to bring it out within a year and a half. That was the initial plan. But obviously, COVID ruined our plans. But still, the amount of effort it takes, I think people who have seen the film, it's not easy job to make 400 people stand in a full auditorium if there was no hard work behind it. And that I don't think has any cost.
Now, of course, you both are known faces in the movement, but let me come to Neeraj. Neeraj, you are not very active as far as the cause of men's rights movement is concerned, but you have...
He is not married. He's not married yet.
Same with you are somebody who has been behind the camera when even when it came to Martyrs of Marriage, you were on the editing table, and now you have co-partnered with Deepika as a director on this movie. What makes you so passionate to narrate a journey about this cause? What was the trigger? What brought you to this platform?
Hi Anas, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak on this issue. So me and Deepika, we know each other from past 10 or 11 years. We have worked for so many years together while editing. Of course, me and Deepika work very closely. While working with Deepika on Martyrs of Marriage, we came to know about the 376 misuse also. So that time also we decided कि our next movie should be on this topic, because 498A हम लोग पहले बना चुके थे in the form of Martyrs of Marriage. And then one day Deepika came. I think Deepika called me one day and she said कि यार let's make one more documentary. तो मैंने कहा ठीक है. तो I said what's the topic? So she said कि 376 is the topic. So without any hesitation, I on the first go I said ठीक है, let's go and make the movie. Then we started working on the film. Of course, in the past 3 years, the project got delayed. We all know because of the pandemic. As you said, I'm not active in men's rights space. You are true. I am a filmmaker. I decided to be a part of this documentary because, see, our constitution says that every person is equal, has equal rights. So I think the law should also be made on that perception that whether it's a man or a woman, the law should be equal for both. On one side, we are talking about women empowerment, women having equal pay in the corporate world, or be it education. And that's a very good thing to do. But on the other side, we should also consider the situation that the other gender is not deprived of their basic rights. So that was the most hard-hitting part for me. And when I was not aware of all these issues, but Deepika is an expert in this. She briefed me about the loopholes in the laws in the 376A and the tragedy which people faces, tragedy which what the men these days faces. So our objective behind this film is to talk about the different side also. If you look at the data, the false rape cases have drastically increased in the past few years. So women are using this as a tool to extort money, and that somewhat, in some way, is ruining the lives of innocent men. So that was the sole reason for me in joining this movie.
And as we speak, in fact, I just finished an article from Nagpur in Maharashtra, where a 19-year-old girl yesterday was Monday, she has filed a false gang rape case, and the entire police department, consisting of more than 1,000 cops, searched for some 180 CCTV cameras. And after almost, working entire day on that case, now they have found out that it was a false case because the girl had a tiff with her lover who was getting married to some other girl. So
I've read that on your portal actually.
Absolutely.
Crazy.
But on the other side to this, Deepika, is, and I'll argue from the other side where the women empowerment groups or the feminist groups will try and attack this documentary. A lot of people will say that rape victims are already facing so much of challenges in court today. You are kind of putting them in the dock, asking them to bring evidence, constantly questioning them. Ye hua tha, wo hua tha. Now, when you as a documentary filmmaker are asking courts, to look at the other side, to give a fair chance to the accused, what is the argument? How would you counter this, where you say the women are already suffering and now you're kind of putting more pressure on them, kind of looking at them with a lens of a false accuser? How do you counter this?
Arnaz, a couple of things. First and foremost is, like I said in the beginning, I do not want 376 to become another 498A. And if anyone objects to the discussion around false rape accusations, and if anyone gives the argument that women are already suffering and what is your even point, then I would just tell those people to open their eyes to reality and understand that rape is not a joke, that any woman can just go and file a rape case on anyone and then withdraw or compromise or take money and do all of those things. that is reducing the severity of a crime. And we have all seen what has happened to 498A. Nobody takes a 498A case seriously any which ways right now. All right. And if this is not stopped, if 376 misuse is not stopped, it will be the next 498A. It would be a dark day for any woman objecting to my work, where a Supreme Court will give a very stringent judgment on misuse of rape laws, which has sort of started coming from the lower courts, at least now. Right. Second thing is, from the cases that I see, from the case studies that I get on a daily basis, I have absolutely no qualms in saying this, that it's become extremely easy for a woman to go ahead and file a rape case. I'm right now trying to have some action done against a girl who has filed 7 rape cases on 7 men within a year in Gurgaon. And she very, very confidently says that Meri Sirf's statement is ultimate. And that's the truth today. If a woman gives her medical statement, that's what India's Sons is bringing out also. And we are not saying this. These are very senior police officers, very, very senior advocates, and even some retired judges who are making a comment on this, that it's only the medical, only her 164 statement that is needed to put the man in dock for months and years, all right? When the cross-examination will happen, when the trial would happen, although we amended laws and we wanted a very quick trial, but the fact is that these cases are lingering on in the courts even now. So it's not that what used to happen before and all the impression that we had from before, a lot of things have been taken care by the courts after the 2012 amendments. Now, you can't ask any nonsensical questions to a rape victim. There are very, very limited things that you can, the arguments that can be done in a cross-examination. Like I said, her medical and 164 statement in the beginning is all that is needed to file the case, even though there is no evidence. So nobody is asking a woman to come again and again and give evidence. That's not how things are in the courts, and I think Shoni can shed more light on that. But my very concrete point is, and this is something that the narrator of the documentary, Karan Oberoi, also says in the end. We have to protect our daughters, but not at the cost of India's sons. And that is the crux of this movie, this film, this initiative, that we have to protect our daughters. But sorry, you cannot say that now this 19-year-old girl, she filed a false gang rape case, 1,000 people were running throughout the day. What made her to think? We say that what makes men think that they can do a rape and get away with it? What makes a woman, a 19-year-old girl, think that she can do something like a false gang rape case and get away with it? And she will actually get away with it. I'm not too sure if there's going to be any action on this girl. We have seen in the past there have been several false rape complaints, false gang rape complaints. Police have declared it as blatantly false. No action. So this not speaking up on this issue is not only injustice to men who are falsely accused, but it is also extreme injustice to women who actually go through sexual assault and sexual violence. Because this is not serving any purpose. This is not helping anybody. These are blatantly false cases. And anybody who thinks that they can use very, very stringent provisions like this to extort money or to take revenge, I think need to have a deterrent or a lesson, which sadly is not there right now. And I'll just take a few seconds more. I spoke to a very senior cop on the Gurgaon serial rape case filer today. And she is telling me that, it is not easy for someone to just go and accuse somebody of rape. And I said, ma'am, 7 rape cases within 1 year. And she said, well, there is no evidence of extortion. I said, is that the only evidence that you can take action on her? And she's like, we have to go by law. Now imagine a case where a man would have been, only accused of stalking, let's say just stalking. Maybe a man would have been accused by 4 women of, stalking. Would that man be find so easy to remain outside? Would he get bail in every case? Would he not be behind bars? Then what is the difference here?
In detail on this case, Deepika, money cannot be the only motive. There will be other motives. There could be jealousy. Absolutely. There could be just taking revenge against that man. So you can't say because there is no extortion, there cannot be any motive behind filing a false.
But that's what is happening right now. She's gone ahead and filed 8th complaint, and I have an audio which I will release in a few days where she's saying that I have had sex with a guy endless times. I was in relationship with that guy for months. But I just went to the police station and said that he promised me marriage and he dumped me and he remained for 9 months behind bars. That's the confidence we are giving to people who are unscrupulous.
Right. So let me take a cue from this and ask Shoni, because Shoni comes from a legal background. Shoni, obviously you cannot say that let's do away with this law or, completely let's strike down 376. But if you have to give critical suggestion, like what are the few amendments, especially if you ask me, I feel this whole consensualship relationship going wrong and then you file rape. I think that is one of the most bizarre, criteria which has been added. Now, if you have to give a suggestion with immediate effect, what are the amendments that needs to come in? What would be your take?
See, I have not really given much thought to what kind of amendments can be there, because of course it is a subject which requires a lot of research, and then only we can say that certain amendments have to be made. For one, I would say that a clear distinction has to be made in violent rape. Two, a consensual sex turned into rape. When I have gotten a consent of a particular female to indulge in carnal intercourse, the lady cannot say that I was raped. Now, if that, see, when we talk about rape, the only imagery which comes to our minds is a woman being violently ravaged by a man or a group of men. And that was the law for so many years. Then came First Amendment, which changed it to even when the consent has been obtained by fraud. Then changed into a woman's statement itself is gospel's truth. So of course we need to relook how these amendments first came into being and what kind of remedies. There has been no promise of marriage. But I'm saying that I was saying that a promise of marriage, I don't know how can a person prove it that he did not promise to marry. Of course, a promise to marriage can probably be proved. So I often say that anything which happened can be proved. Anything which cannot happen cannot be proved. So asking a man to disprove that he ever promised to marry, I think that is bizarre, and the Evidence Act should be, brought back to what it was, and the insertions like 114A should be done away with. That is the first and foremost, and then the clear distinction should be made between, crimes which are not violent in nature, which are brought out by live-in, because Bombay High Court has given suggestions about it. Promise to marry. So these kind of rapes, there should be a different mechanism or way of dealing with it.
Right. No, I mean, because you are resting the power in the hands of a judge to decide what the boyfriend committed to the girlfriend, what went wrong, why did they part ways. And after spending years in court, where the woman is saying, no, I want to marry him. I'm, accusing him of rape, but I want to marry him. I mean, what kind of law is this at the end of the day? And then the media completely twists, whatever judgments or acquittals come out of these cases, where if you remember a very famous incident which happened when the earlier Chief Justice of India, Bobde, he was actually asking the couple, because this was a case where the woman had, dragged the boyfriend to court. And he just, he asked that, whether would you marry her? If you don't marry her, then we'll have to proceed as per a rape case. Now, that comment of CJI was completely taken out of context. And the headline was, the Chief Justice of India asked rape accuser whether he would marry the victim. How do you look at this?
So the moot point here is, does a man having sex with a woman makes a crime? Is it a crime? If they both had consensual sex at any point of time. There is a news report which I can dig it out. Jitendra has been charged with the rape which happened 40 years back. I don't know. And once on one side we say that young people are evolving and then we are increasing the age of consent. It was 12 years, it became 14 years, now it became 16 years, now it is 18 years. Where are we heading? So 18 years.
We were in space the other day, and the doctor was saying this exactly the same thing. He was from Odisha, and he had joined along after Mr. Bothra had joined. And he was saying that there are 15, 16-year-old girls and boys who get into relationship, who run away, who have sex, who they do not know. The boy was brought on the charges of rape, and he said, I did not even know if this was wrong. I did not do anything wrong to her. She did not know that there is anything wrong in this, but still the boy becomes the rapist, and nobody empathizes with what a man goes through or a young boy goes through. I was talking to Prince last night and I was in tears. I told him that, Prince, now a lot of people will get to know about your story, so we can, we can help you in restarting your studies. And he's like, ma'am, my life is almost over.
So for the
मैं बस धक्का दे रहा हूँ अपनी जिंदगी को. मेरा दिमाग, मुझे चीजें याद नहीं रहती हैं. There is, the kind of passion and energy I had was great, but so yeah, it's bad. It's bad, and we definitely need amendments.
Right. So Prince is basically
documentary gets into that.
The rape accused who is also featuring in India's Sons. Neeraj, can you give us some example? You would have spoken to so many, people while the making of this movie. Can you tell us one particular story that really struck with you, and you were like completely shocked कि अच्छा ऐसे भी होता है?
Among all the stories, we met so many people, so many victims during the course of filming. So picking one is really difficult, but I would say, of course, as you said, Prince's stories really moved me because he was quite an ambitious boy. He wanted to be a chartered accountant. He wanted to help his family, his mother, and at the age of 18, getting arrested without doing any crime is really a painful thing. And after getting arrested, his family suffered a lot. Of course, his father has a heart attack, major heart attack. Of course, his brother-in-law also died during that course. So I think the story of Prince really moved me, and that is the one story which will be with me throughout my life. And I really hope that Prince do great thing in his life, achieves what he wants to do, and we should really come together and help Prince in whatever way we can.
Right. Premiere in Delhi that happened on Saturday was attended by some very senior people. One was Mrs. Sonal Mansingh, who is the member of Rajya Sabha. Another one is Shri Anubhav Mohanty, who is the member of Parliament in the Lok Sabha. Now, both of them have also tweeted after watching this documentary very passionately that as lawmakers, we are going to take this ahead. We are going to not just see the documentary, but also do something about it. How do common people look at this? Whether we would see some serious action in the next 1 or 2 years? What would be the key game changer for this? Deepika, Shoni, anybody who wants to comment?
Deepika, you go ahead first.
No, Shoni, if you want to say anything, please.
Yes, I wanted to say that I don't see anything which is happening immediate, on anything to happen on an immediate basis. The laws were not made in one day. Of course, Nirbhaya changed the law, tweaked the law in one day, but laws were not made in one day. Dowry laws were, domestic violence laws were not made in one day, and they will not be amended in one day. I have very little expectations from parliamentarians, though it does not mean that we will not put our effort to that extent. But I have more faith in judiciary that some judicial intervention will come, like Bombay High Court has given or Madhya Pradesh High Court had given. So someday other high courts or Supreme Court will rise to this first, because amending a law, even dowry law 498A, courts have consistently said that it should be bailable, it should be made compoundable, but feminist lobby has, opposed that. So I don't expect any change, but yes, what I expect is that there will be a serious debate which will be started from this movie. And we have put great effort, and of course they both have put great effort, and I am a team member, so we have put great effort. and making this movie. And that is the basic minimum which I expect, that a discussion will start. And someday it will culminate into some kind of guidelines where innocent men, innocent children are not trapped in POXO or rape cases. A man and a young boy and a young girl, as you were talking, Deepika was giving an example. They indulge out of curiosity. Only the man is charged, only the boy is charged with rape. What kind of law it is?
Girls of 14 and 15 have gotten married earlier.
Yeah,
And they had kids.
This is the problem.
You don't want to
disconnect
keep it. That is fairly fine. You don't want to keep it, or you find the
There
comment.
has to be a difference between morals and crimes, yeah. How can we, this whole thing of rape and promise of marriage is also so moralistic, dude.
But this
This
is
is not crime.
Because today, in the age of social media, the lawmakers are so disconnected with the ground realities. And, you can't just talk about culture and moral values and, have your laws based on that.
Anas, I don't know whether you like to keep it or not, but I have seen cases where the woman or the man who is married to the woman who is a porn addict, and she started watching porn since the age of 12. And her whole expectation is related to that only, So that kind of women are there.
Kids, everybody today, whether it's a girl or a boy, you are exposed to social media. Everything is in front of you. And you can't say the boy is the one who's only guilty and, the girl is underage, so she's not mature enough. I mean, that is not an argument at all.
What you are saying, that boy and girl are equal, it is out of the window. If boy is more intelligent from the very beginning, then let it be. Don't talk about equality then.
I think I have immense hope in both Mr. Anubhav Mohanty and Srimati Sonal Mansingh ji. One of the bigger thing, rather than looking at an immediate change because of this documentary or because of this film, one thing that is very positive, Arnaz, is that 2 members of parliament saw a documentary, came out and personally tweeted about it. And they said, we will stand up for this. This means a lot because I met other members of parliament also. They wanted to come and see the screening, but they said, we are very afraid there's an entire lobby that will gang up against us. So if somebody like a Sonal Mansingh is standing up and saying this, I think it means a lot. It will give encouragement to other people also to call this wrong as a wrong. And if there is a consensus that they really need to look at it, they need to form a committee or constitute any panel to take a look at this thing. I think the objective would be achieved. I am very, very hopeful with the development that happened in Delhi. And since Shoni rightly said, nothing happens overnight. It's a long process. But I think we have started the journey. Let's see where we take this.
Right. And in the absence of any immediate changes coming, through the lawmakers, I think using the medium of media documentary is one of the most powerful tools to educate society, to educate young men, to at least make them aware of what laws exist in the current times. So a lot of people are hoping that this documentary is up on one of the OTT platforms soon. Until then, I think you and we will keep publishing wherever you are heading next to whichever city for, screening it live for the people. And we can all wish you all the very, very best for a huge success for this.
Thank you so much, Arnaz.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you. Thanks for hosting us.
Thank you.